are.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, hello everyone. Hope everybody's doing great. Also, again, hello Rope and Rope. Please correct me if I say your name wrong. How are you doing?
Good. As I was saying, TGIF. So thank God it's Friday, but I'm well. So
That's lovely. Maybe for everyone else, do you mind introducing yourself again? Like, what
yes.
do you?
So my name is Roope Rainisto. So I live in Helsinki, Finland, and for the last 3 years, I've been full time working on AI art. Actually, I've been working on full time and trying to use AI for different kinds of creative purposes. So pictures, art, then screenwriting, and then so on. Previous to that, I spent 25 years as a professional designer. So I did UI design, UX design, concept design, smartphones. I did mixed reality and then virtual reality, and things, then then quite a lot. So
It's super interesting. Talking about like your AI thing, I looked at your LinkedIn bio, and I love what you said about like AI will not mean the death of creativity, but the opposite. Like, can you explain to me how do you think AI will help us be more creative?
well, yeah, I think AI can help to be creative in two fundamental ways. So, I mean, first is the kind of the overall, let's say the kind of the psychological side of creativity. Each human can then only know so much. So, I mean, we have
Mm.
such a short time on this planet, so that we can only then know so much information, or we can know so much art. AI has the capability then to know so much more. So it is just a kind of like then this insane then overbrain, and then when you're able then to partner with that, you then gain access into so much more understanding than a single human can get. The kind of the other side of why it permits us to be more creative relates to the kind of the financial side. So then all things have a cost. So let's say one easy to explain alternative for being more creative is the films. So if you think about then films today, many people complain that films are not then hyper then creative because they are so expensive. And the kind of the more expensive and the more slow it is then to create something, the more you need to control the risk. So that's why most of films are then usually done, so that there are sequels or based on some kind of existing IP. So now that when AI will make all the production then substantially then cheaper, then you can then start then to take more risk, and you can start to take more like you don't think you can then start to afford to do things that you can't then start to afford then to do right now.
So why did you jump from design career into AI? And I have to say, for everybody watching the recording, thank God it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and whatever your day you're retroactively watching this. But Roope, why did you go from design into what drove you into this artistic? Have you always done art, and then suddenly AI just like enabled it to do a different way?
Well, yes, that's also true. So, I mean, I've always had art as a pastime. So I've been doing. I had my first camera when I was 13. So I've been doing the photography for 30 years. I've written a lot of things. I played in bands. I've written songs and so on. But it's always been a pastime. So I saw something then to kind of then to relieve my mind from the kind of the professional design side. I guess it was kind of the midlife crisis. So I mean, I had quite a successful 20-25 years as a professional designer, and I thought, well, I could easily spend the kind of the next 10-20 years in the same profession. But then as people have the midlife crises, they then start to think about, well, after I turned then 65, and then will I feel regret if I've just spent my whole kind of life in the kind of the professional world? And that was kind of like my thing. So after I feel that something has been kind of like then successfully done in a way, I feel that our life is short. And but then of course the next question is the why AI, and that's of course kind of on an accident. So if I would have had my midlife crisis in 2016, then I would have probably gone into 3D or then photography and so on. But it then just so happened in 2021, as I was thinking about, well, what is the most interesting thing that will start to happen in the next 5 years? And in that case, I was pretty sure it is then AI. So, and I was sure that it will then change the world. So then the question is that what do I then start then to do with that? So do I want to be one of the first people then to get involved, or then do I want to be the kind of the last person?
So you decided to be the first.
Well, I mean, I'm not the first, but I mean, let's say to be in the first kind of like the group of people. So.
Fair enough. Mathilda, have you been trying out? Like, how are you? Do you regard yourself as one at first? Like, I have to ask. Like, are you among the first, or do you feel you're late?
I feel like I'm super late. I don't get it. Just like one question I had for Roope. For me, I'm a design student. I'm going into this world, which we have now so much AI and it's getting so much more popular. Like, what are the kind of skills I should require now that I'm a student before entering the workforce, considering that AI is there? Because I really don't get it, other than using ChatGPT a little bit. But I think the potential, you just don't know.
Well, I think the overall hardest problem is that how do you integrate it with the rest of your then workflows? So I mean, you can't assume, and it's not true certainly at the moment, that you can do all things with AI. But it's a rather question that AI then is really great for certain stages of projects, and it's certainly not great for something else. So then overall, I mean, if you think about then extremely simplistic way, AI is really good for the first half of the project. So when you're starting work, when you're starting then to explore a concept, then try out then different ideas, it's an extremely then good way there to get the kind of rough understanding. AI can do 500 answers, but it won't then be able to provide you with the kind of the right answer. So that's then your job then to be then to refine. But then the overall question is that then to try to identify the things that you can do, right now with AI, and then to think about, well, how does this then fit with the kind of the overall picture of if you then want to accomplish something. So how do you kind of handle the handovers? I use the word handovers in a way because I kind of think that AI is like the software team somewhere far away, and it's then your problem of how do you talk with the software team far away, and how do you get them to do something, and then how do you then get something then into your use in the kind of the overall project.
So what, go ahead, Mathilda.
Please go ahead.
No, I wanted to like jump on the like, it's in the beginning, but like, when is art done, right? So when it comes to art, right, if you're doing something functional, there is the beginning phase, which is you can use creativity, but art is never like, when is art done, right? So when do you know it's the beginning phase, and when should you stop refining or using AI? Do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I think certainly the answer is probably something somewhat different if you're talking about art or then design. So if we're talking about design, software design, then to do something functional, I think the stages of where you can use AI is then slightly different. For art, of course, art is such a then wide a range of things. So I mean, I am an AI artist right now, so which means that I probably use AI for all stages of the art process. But I think this whole question of how it is then today. So then quite often when you hear discussions about AI art today, there's only like then two extremes that people talk about. People talk about like pure art, or then talk about AI art, which means that it's like 100% AI. But I think that's really something that in the near future will start to change substantially. So I think we all see nowadays that there's AI tools integrated into applications like then Photoshop. So then the question will become that not is your art 100% AI, but do you do art which is like then art 10% AI or then 20% AI? So people have their existing art processes, and then for some stages or in their work they will use some tools that also then contain AI. And I think as then this starts to happen, then the whole discussion will start to die down as to is this AI art or not? It is then then just art, and people say that AI is then just a tool, and some people get completed then kind of I really don't want people tend to say that, but I do say that still AI is then just tools, and then the question is overall that if you're doing something that only requires one tool at one stage, it's not highly complex. I think quite much all professions are then more than a single step with a then single tool. And even though you replace some of these steps with these new tools, I think the kind of the skill of the artist or the photographer or the writer and so on, it is not only in this then one particular step of the one thing, but it is this overall understanding of that if there's something that you want to express, then it's still your job to make sure that that's good. And then how do you do it? Which tools do you use? I think that's then highly it is the not so important.
So can I ask to clarify? So you mentioned that like AI is a tool and that you use it, and AI art. So when does the AI art become art? Is it when you can show empathy through that work, or what makes it art?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as we probably all know, there's then multiple ways then to define art. My personal definition of art is that the artist creates something that makes the audience or the kind of the recipient then feel something, and I think that's the fundamental nature of art. So if you write the love song, you want the listener then to feel these things that I had in mind. Or you make a movie, you want to make somebody then laugh or smile, or you write a book, or you then perform a dance. It's all then to make somebody feel something. And I think that's then for the AI art fundamentally. So if you use these AI tools, are you then about to create pictures or videos or the movies or then songs and so on? It is kind of like it's the form. So you then create something that looks like something that we know, but still it's the same question that or have you created something that made somebody then feel something? And I think that is not a then technical problem. It will not become easier as these tools then start to gain more technical competence. I think that, for instance, many people use some tools like then a Midjourney because they then start to create the best pictures in a way. But I don't think that the fact that a picture is like in a technical sense it's the best, it really then doesn't have a thing to do with art as such. So I mean, art is about the feelings, and sometimes a picture that is far the less realistic can start to make somebody then feel much more. And I think that's sorry.
So you're saying that kind of for art to be art, it needs to have an audience that feels something. Like can you have an audience that doesn't feel anything? Are you then an artist? Is it then art?
Well, actually, I think I'm saying that almost. I'm actually saying that if an audience feels something, then the artist then good. I think quite often, if you see, I mean, even if you don't think about AI art, but then all art. So if I see a painting, somebody then does a painting, I see it and I don't then feel a thing. I still think that the painting is art. I don't think it's then good art in a way that it really then doesn't then have a function for me, and I don't think. In my mind, the question usually isn't that is AI art, but is AI art then good art? So I mean, it resembles this kind of painting of a flower that then somebody makes. We can say that it's art, but I mean, it's probably not then something that makes me feel something. And I think in that case, if you create something, if the purpose of art is to make somebody feel something, and you create something that looks like art, but you don't then feel a thing, I would still argue that it's art, but you could say probably that it's not like then good art.
Okay, so talking about that, like feeling that, like when you need to feel something when you're creating, and when you feel something, it becomes better, right? So where do you draw your inspiration from? Where do your feelings comes like when you go about like creating, and even you can like answer this question through showing maybe one of your art pieces when it comes to like, okay, you want to express yourself, you felt something. Where do you draw your inspiration and how does it show?
Yeah, I mean, my inspirations are then all over. So I mean, this is kind of like then really then I think many people say the same. So I mean, I draw it from music or existing movies or then books or real life and so on. I think this inspiration question is actually quite tough. I think it's probably hard to say where does one draw inspiration from. I will try to share my screen. So let's see if this. No, actually, I pressed the wrong button. I'm gonna share my screen here. Let's try again. I'll share my entire screen. Let's see what happens. Are you able to see my screen at this moment? So okay, I do the multiple forms of art. I mean, but this is the latest art kind of collection, which just sold last week. This collection is called Vacation. So I think I am as an AI artist, I'm most well known for this kind of photographic style of art. So let's say, but so these are not photographs, but they use photographic language, and I think that's really interesting to me because AI, photos are not real. AI artists then certainly not real, but they're really fun to play with these ideas of kind of like create something that then perhaps the first impression might be that it is the real, but then instantly after you then start then to observe the piece for a while, then you start to understand that these are then certainly not real. But for instance, in this case of this art collection called Vacation, I was then working on this for 6 months. The final art collection is then 427 pieces, but it started from like almost 100,000 pieces at first. So I was then creating tons and tons, and it's a bit like with then all photos. So I mean, I certainly when I take photos, I take tons and tons of photos, and then I start then look for pieces that then inspire me, and then tell me a story, and they start to make me feel a certain way. And I think in that way, I use this example of I compare it quite much then to camera and the process of taking photos, because I think it's quite fair to say that it is then easy to take photos and it's hard then to take good photos. I mean, we all now have a fantastic camera in our phones, and we can take a photo like this, snap, and we then have something. And we don't argue, is this a photograph? It is a photograph, but is this the nude photograph is the question. So I think in that way, it is easy then to do AI art, just as it's easy then to take photos, but it is hard then to do it. Then it is hard then to make it then good, and I think this is true for all art. So I mean, not just AI art, of course. I mean, all photos, all paintings, or anything you write or you do. I mean, most of the art is probably not good, but I think in that way, these are the same problems always.
So like you say, practice, right? So like in order to know what's good, or is there a way to accidentally create great art and it's like some like right?
Probably, certainly. I mean, certainly, if you would take an AI art tool and made it then go completely random, you would just feed it the random pieces of text, and you would then make it run 10,000 times. I'm sure you would make one really great piece of art. Kind of the same way as you would go out on the street and take 10,000 photos in the random. I'm sure you would find one photo that is actually really good. But of course, most artists are not known for the individual pieces, but I mean, artists, are known by, how can you tell a consistent story? How can you create a distinctive style? So even though if you create one picture that is really great in a certain style, and then you create something else which is in a completely then it's not in the same style, you are not so far yet.
Okay, so style matters. But Mathilda, please.
Yeah, I'm just now like super curious about like what is the process of generating the actual pieces? Like how do you approach the like text, the prompt? Because if you say you have a certain style, how do you make sure that the images kind of reflect that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I mean, I personally, as quite many of AI artists, use this open source library or tools called then Stable Diffusion. So Stable Diffusion came out like almost 2 years ago, and that's really one of the key explosions as to AI art overall, because the power of Stable Diffusion comes from the fact that you can start to personalize and then to customize. So if you use something like the Midjourney, it is a highly capable of tool which creates fantastic pictures. And they do have some ways to kind of like set styles. I'm not saying that completely, but in Stable Diffusion, there's far more than fundamental ways of you can actually control it. So you can even start to train your own custom versions, or you can do this process called then fine tuning, which I personally use. So then after you do this fine tuning and you then create custom versions of Stable Diffusion, then it's not so much about the prompts. So even if I would then tell you my prompts, then they wouldn't be able to take these prompts and then put it into your versions. They wouldn't work the same way. So sometimes my prompts are like then extremely simple, because the kind of the part is not so much about the prompts then at this stage, but it's more about the process that I've actually changed the way it then starts to behave. And that's, I think, one of the key success pieces of an artist is that you create in a style that then becomes then distinctive. So be it whoever are you, then once you're able to create a picture where even though you don't see that that is from you, so if you only see a picture and you don't see the kind of the name, if people are then able then to say that picture looked like it's drawn by the Kai Stenvall, in that stage, then that's really a key part.
Okay, so then the tool would help you actually keep your style easier than by hand, or would you say it's equally difficult to use AI to keep your style as it would be to on like freehand? right? Because like, yes, it becomes unique, but when you like to you, when you're using you said like if Mathilda uses your prompts on her stuff, it won't be the same, right? But if you use your prompts on your stuff, you can generate, 500. You said you had 100 pieces first, and now it ended up being 500. So isn't it like easier to do more in your style with the help of this tool?
Yes, then to some extent. So I think the problem then overall, so if you think about the big picture, actually with AI, it is harder to create distinctive styles than with hand. So let's say that you're a painter and so on. The fact that you do it for a while, it is quite often your style then just starts then to emerge. For AI, you really need to do quite a lot of work to be actually to reach that stage. So I think if I come back to this Mid Journey, many people create really fantastic art with Mid Journey. I mean, it is really kind of like beautiful or aesthetic or so on. But then when you post it then online and people see it, they really can't say that it's your art because there would be 100,000 people who have then who are able then to create in that style. So actually, overall, when people say that AI is easy, I would say actually AI is much harder. So if you play guitar or you sing or the style almost comes, I don't know what to say, it comes for free, but it is certainly kind of like you don't need to focus on then that part so much. But with AI, actually, that's really it is actually quite hard then to
replicate
make the workflows. I mean, at least at this stage, of course, when I come back to what I said then earlier. So once we reach a stage that you use AI for like then 10% of your art or 20% of your art, then in those cases, then the kind of the 80% will make it more kind of easier to have your own distinctive style still than to remain in the art.
Okay, fair enough. We still have a few minutes left. Mathilda, do you have some last questions for?
Maybe again, what do you think? Like, how do you think this will even evolve in the future? Now, maybe like 10 plus years into the future.
Yeah, I think certainly kind of like if you think about like then 30 years ago of like when then Photoshop came out, people started to create art with Photoshop, and some people said, well, he said that this is then Photoshop art. Nowadays nobody says that this is Photoshop art because all artists then use Photoshop as a part of their process. The same way as people nowadays say, well, that's then AI art. I'm pretty sure that in 10, 20 years, nobody will talk about AI art because all people will use AI for some part of their process and so on. And then after you define all art to be, well, not all, but if after it becomes so then widely used, then we talk about it less. But I think the biggest thing will become like that it will make people more equal. So if I come back to this then film example, nowadays if you would want to make a film, well, then you almost can't. I mean, you would need to be in an extremely position that is extremely hard then to obtain. So there's tons of people that have fantastic ideas that we simply can't then get made. But the same way as YouTube and then TikTok, nowadays you can start to make your own TV show or then program. So if you just have the personality, if you have the ideas, if you have the kind of the inspiration, then you can start then to become a star on then YouTube. And I think this nowadays happens for the non fictional content. So I mean, it's like people talking and so on. But I think this same can start then to happen for like the fictional content. So you can make your own then South Park, or you can make your own this and that. and you don't need to spend 2 years then trying then to pitch the show or get funding or try to get producers that won't completely want them to change your ideas into something else. You can then just start and then to create it. And yes, it will mean that there will be plenty of bad art online, but it's the same as in YouTube. There's like an endless amount of videos in YouTube, but still the algorithm takes care so that the best ones actually come to the surface, and you actually get far more interesting content as a result. I personally don't really nowadays spend time on TV. I spend my time on the YouTube because it's far more, there's far more interesting content there. And I think that same will start to happen overall. And I don't think that's the kind of the end of creativity or the kind of I think that will actually be a rebirth. And that's why I don't feel bad. I feel extremely then interested to see what will happen in the next 5-10 years.
That's a very, very interesting and particular thought, that we've been here before and history is just repeating itself in a different way. Any last words, Roope, for the audience? Where can people follow your work?
Well, the good thing is that I have a rare name. So if you type the Roope Rainisto on the Twitter or Google or YouTube, there's just a single then Roope Rainisto in the world. So probably the best way to follow me is through my then Twitter. So it's the last name, so the Rainisto. I'm there, but I'm also on YouTube and Instagram and so on. But I'm fortunately then quite then easy to find there.
Okay, amazing. And Mathilda, for the audience, what are we promoting in the next few weeks?
Okay, we want to invite everyone to join our exhibition on AI. Is it art? Is it not art? Make up your own mind and join us in Suvinlahti on the 12th of June.
Amazing. Thank you, Roope, for chatting with us. Super excited to follow your continuous journey on creating art and kind of feeling a lot of mutual touch points on that. We'll conclude the stream here and have an amazing weekend and continuous day for everybody who's watching this live, and for those watching the recording, thank you for your attention.
Thank you.